organizations. But philanthropy normally deals with the private sector. So the government wants a single point entity of government working with the private sector to see how we can attract large funds from large philanthropies to carry out national programs in the country. And I think that was the reason why STAR found us to be important that we come and have a talk in here and be part of the whole organization. The idea here is, one, for the CSOs to know what the president meant when he said he wanted a single point of contact, handling the philanthropy things, to disabuse any misunderstanding that government was taking the philanthropy money from them and using it on their own or government's own for government's purpose, and also to work with the CSOs and the NGOs to see how we can scale what they are doing. Because a lot of philanthropy is being done in the country, but they're being done in clusters. It's very fragmented. The idea is, how do we work together? And we thought that working with Star Ghana Foundation, who are in the forefront of this philanthropy, who have the right Rolodex associations with other CSOs doing similar things, to come together, to work together with them, and work together with the whole community to be able to realize the president's dream. And the president's dream is quite simple. He wants philanthropy money to be focused on national priorities. We're not saying that what they're doing right now is not national priorities, but it's an unstructured plan. And the government wants to be involved in it. The government wants to make sure that they have all the institutions of government working with them to make sure it happens. We will do what government does best, and we'll leave the CSOs to do what they do best. But we need a framework of how we're going to work together. We need a system of how we're going to put this together. We need to work with them to see how we can approach the larger philanthropists who would like to do things from a national scale and national perspective, rather than just do the community ones that we are currently seeing. So how do we bring all these CSOs together, syndicate them to do something larger on a national level? I'll go back to thankful. So practically, what would be the role of the Millennium Development Authority in this whole thing? The Millennium Development Authority has always been the government's implementer of projects. So take this as a government project. That's right. Government wants this to happen. Millennium Development, make it happen. So we have to work with the private sector like we've always worked with the private sector, and also with the government institutions to make this happen. The good news is that we don't operate in silos. We operate across sectors. Okay, so we don't do only education, or we don't do only, agriculture. We don't do only health. We work across the sectors, and you can tell from the constitution of our board of directors. We have the Minister of Finance, we have the Attorney General, we have Trade and Industry, we have also local government, and we have gender on our boards. And there will be more added when a project covers their industry. And the idea is to get senior leadership buy-in into what the president wants to be done. This can be done at cabinet, but we have many cabinets in yes. And the deputy chief of staff of office of the president, Honorable Nana Uye Balamo Ado, made them a nice proposal yesterday that there is urgent need to get a bill towards national philanthropy.
Now we need to focus on a legal framework for resource mobilization and philanthropy. I'm hoping this conference speaks to that. We will be happy to initiate the process, have a team to work on that so that we can create that legal framework and then harness the resources. And like I said, you can look at several global models. And I'm hoping Alaji, who is the authority in Ghana and one of the leading authorities in Africa on this, to help with this process. And I will personally commit to being part of a team to develop a bill that we can work on and submit, and also rope in the Attorney General. Because if we're talking about reimagining sovereignty, this is the way to go to harness the resources from philanthropists in Ghana and beyond Ghana so that we use this resource for inclusive and accelerated development.
Resources for work, especially civil society work, and for philanthropy-oriented work has drastically reduced. We are heavily dependent on foreign sources for resource mobilization. So, for instance, when Donald Trump became president and then made the announcement and just cut out US aid, it had implications not only for government, especially our health programs, but also for civil society, because US aid also used to fund some civil society work. And generally, because of other global programs, resource has dwindled. We know even at the United Nations level, they really had to cut down on resources. So now, this conference, I'm happy, is speaking to looking inward. How do we mobilize resources in Ghana? And in my speech, I said that we are culturally a giving people. It's part of our culture to give, to support, and support the community at large. How do we optimize this cultural value of Ghanaians? And I have proposed that government creates a strong ecosystem that will facilitate national and internal mobilization of resources that will help us in developing, that will now fuel the inclusive development that we want. Another point I made too is that the NDC government and the NDC is a social democratic government, and we are people-centered. So this is not too difficult for us. And one key proposal government is making to this conference is for government, civil society, and private sector to come together. Let's come up with a blueprint in terms of either a policy or a law that will now create that guiding framework for philanthropy. You have several people. We have a gentleman who is doing soup kitchens. He's gone along. Recently he was in Tamale. RNAQ. We have Alaji Seidu Agongo, who is also who recently helped the Children's Emergency in Kolebu Hospital. And I can mention several individuals.
As we build a synergy between government, civil society and private sector, when these resources are mobilized, how best do you think we can channel these resources appropriately towards collective development of this nation? How can this be done?
This is why we need to sit together, the three stakeholders, to come up with a framework. I will not be able to say, let's do this or that. Let it come from the bottom up. Let us have that conversation across Ghana. We have, the whole of Ghana is here now at this program. So let's speak to it and come up with a blueprint that will work.
On this show, we promote volunteerism, active citizenship, and patriotism. What would be your final words to viewers about how citizenry can take volunteerism, patriotism, and active citizenship serious toward the development of this country?
Well, it is very critical, and that's why even within our national service framework, we have a whole section on volunteers, and I know that even for this year they are recruiting volunteers to help work in various sectors. So it is very, very important. I have worked with a lot of volunteers, both from outside Ghana and also in Ghana. And I can give an example where we used to go to the prisons. So I supervised law students for us to go to the prisons and then take up cases of prisoners who are awaiting trial, who didn't have legal representation, and that helped a lot to. We got out over maybe 20 prisoners.
So, Mr. Moon, this show is the Volunteers TV show. We promote volunteerism, active citizenship, and patriotism. From where you sit and with your vast experience in public service, how do you see volunteerism and active citizenship among the citizenry of Ghana today? You know, this is what Democrats will call a mobilization. Yes, and it's very critical. I'll give you an example. You know, I think in 1981 or so, the university students we volunteered. We volunteered. I was the regional coordinator for Greater Accra. Yes, we volunteered, and the universities we had to shut down for 6 months, only 9 months. Where we volunteered to do. Volunteering is very critical in this country. We want to get things done. So, to answer your question, it is the fabric of any nation. If you don't have people volunteering to do things, it will never happen. Yeah. People from the private sector have to volunteer to help the public sector raise the bar. And that is why some of us, move from the private sector to the public sector, because we needed to raise the bar. When we worked with the public sector, and we realized that without an efficient public sector, it wouldn't be that. So people will say, I'm still doing national service. There is a dire in country to build synergy, and I think the Deputy Chief of Staff mentioned it. Build a synergy between government, civil society, and the private sector. How can this synergy be built seamlessly so that the developmental agenda of the nation can be achieved? How can we do this? Okay, that's a big one, but I think in most situations we talk about the need for partnerships, the need for increased engagement, the need for collaboration. But if we don't take time, we become what maybe I might describe as very fluffy talk shops, very fluffy mechanisms that we don't see that we are needing to. So I would look at purpose-driven or purpose-focused collaborations. What is the need? What kind of partnerships do we need to develop around that? So there is some issues where the collaboration, the partnership should be driven by governments, and others are brought in. There may be some other areas or issues where the private sector takes the lead and brings others in. And there may be some areas where civil society takes the lead. And then the fundamental thing is that we need all these actors at the table. But the specifics of that collaboration, the partnership, should be based on the context of the issue. So we are talking about maybe education, improving education outcomes. And we obviously would see that this should be something that should be driven by government. Government is at the center of the collaboration, but brings on board everybody else. That's right. And then we talk about something that may be more accountable, whatever, anti-corruption. And so we're civil society, because we are a step back from active implementation, we maybe take the lead in this. But I think that number one, those days where we saw ourselves as pursuing mutually exclusive objectives, and then number two is that let us focus those collaborations so we get the best out of that. To add to what Araji is saying, I think it's important that it's very clear. Government cannot do what the civil society is doing in terms of philanthropic work. However, what government wants to do, and it's very clear what space government is playing. government wants to see how we can leverage on what they are doing and scale it up so that you have a national program and get it out, so that it gets the impact. What all these NGOs are doing philanthropies, if it wasn't for stations like yourself, their work wouldn't be known. You understand? So it's only when something is big news that the little media guys, the big media guys know how this is done. So for us, it's how do we scale it? Using their best practices, using examples of what they've done in communities that have worked. How do we go about it? What we want to do is, use them as the pilots and then scale it up. Working with them to execute it, not us. But what we will do as leader is we will implement it with them. We will focus them. We will make sure that we have the right systems. Look at their system. Look at what systems would be best to implement this on a national scale. And then we will make sure that we are accountable. Leader is an accountable entity to the people who give the money, the philanthropists, to ensure that what they want done is done on budget and on a timely basis.
The active citizenship bit of building the Ghana we want cannot be taken out.
No.
What are some of the actions you need to take to keep the interest in Ghanaians towards patriotism, volunteerism, and active citizenship, so that we can all build the Ghana we want as citizens of Ghana?
I mean, first of all, you should look at it as a project. It's not going to happen overnight. So our values have to change. And if our values are going to change, we need to know what the end game is. Normally, if you understand what the end game is, and the journey you're going to take to arrive at that end game, you'll be more willing to cooperate to get it done. You'll be more active in participating to get it done. But if you think it's others who are going to do it, and you don't really understand it, or you are skeptical about how they will reach there, when you understand the journey, the end game seems so far away, you don't understand the benefits that are coming to you, nobody is interested in that. So we have to handle it like a project. This thing has to be handled like a project. We have to make people aware. We have to make sure that they understand what benefits they are getting from it in the long term. And I really understand this is a long-term journey we're going. And we want people who are committed. And those who are committed, there are the benefits for them in there.
That's right.
And if I can make a good relationship, if I can quickly add to what Alexa said, I think we projectize it, but for me the fundamentals are one, agreement on the values. Now, if we went out today and ask what are our values at Ghana,
That's right.
you would get as many different views as the subset. Exactly. So that whole thing about coalescing all this into a set of values that we all ascribe to, and then that becomes a basis for mobilization. I think the second prerequisite is the trust in leadership.
The trust in leadership.
That we are doing this and everybody benefits. Right now, because of a lot of what we've gone through since independence, we do this and then the big people will track it. So we need that sense of listening. And then the third for me is the frameworks, how the case for mobilization. We need to be very intentional. A champion for all his force. He came out with the charter, the national charter, the national pledge. They started from the schools. So when I was in secondary school, Monday we recited the national pledge before we went into class. So by the time you go to Form 5, you knew the pledge. I pledge of my honor to be faithful and loyal to Ghana, and it formed a structure for you around which And the last point is that people think active citizenship is about politics. Active citizenship, if you see a need, fill it.
That's right.
Fill it with either skill, feel it with your presence, feel it with your listening, but feel it.
This is see the need, take the lead.
Yes. So if it is at your local level and children are out of school and you can engage them during the break time, feel it. If it is something else, feel it. If it's at a national level that Galamsey is killing us and we want to feel it. But let's see active citizenship as something that benefits everybody. That the values are important. And let's quick example. I said it the last time. The Japanese went to a World Cup tournament. They lost the match, but before they left, the Japanese spectators stayed on
That's right. That's right.
We will sit in Tokyo and then throw the water sachet out of the listen. Values.
But we are coming to the end of our discussion. What would be your final word to our lovely viewers now, watching us and want to see Ghana get to a certain pedestal that we all be proud to say we are Ghanaians? What are some of the actions, practical actions, that you think we need to take in your final words to us?
Well, first of all Ghanaians should be interested in what's going on in the country, in the economy, and in their sectors and where they operate. They should be vocal on things that are not working well and things that are working well. We should try and scale those things that are working well. That is very crucial. It's the only thing that's going to make us aware. We have to be involved in our local politics, in our local government, to ensure that in our little area where we are operating, things are happening and things are being done properly. We have to ensure and we have to advocate for accountability. That is very important. Without accountability and transparency, we are not going to attract the kind of funding we need for our philanthropists, for our NGOs and our CSOs to do the good works that they're already doing. And without that, we are not going to be able to scale it. So people should understand that it's the little things that matter. And the little things start and grow up and become the big things. So we shouldn't criticize government. We should start with our local government and make sure it works. We have to make sure that we scale it up to our larger government, and then also whatever we are doing, we try and ensure that we are leading by the values that we want as Ghanaians. And Alaji mentioned it. It's important that we have a national set of values that everybody knows this is a Ghanaian. This is what he stands for. Exactly. We have it, but some bad values are creeping in. We have to expunge we should not be apologetic about expunging them. We should not be apologetic about holding people who have been entrusted to office, especially new appointees. So we should be held liable, and we should be responsible. We should make sure that we came to serve the people. So we should be transparent. We should be accountable to them, and we should not feel that we are above them, because we are not. We are serving them, and we have been given an opportunity to do that, and we should be accountable and transparent.
Also, thank you. Your final words. I would want you to tie it into the theme for this year's Ghana Philanthropy Conference, which is looking more at how to mobilize domestic resources as a catalyst for national development. I want you to tie your final words into the theme for this year's conference.
Recent developments on the international scale that we are seeing have proved to us, if we needed any proof, that we can't rely on outsiders to fund your development. They can support, they can complement, but they cannot be the primary source of resources for your development. And based on that realization, I think this theme speaks to that. We need to mobilize what we have to support what we need to do. We go and bring the resources from outside, then we are going to be doing what they want us to do. But their priorities are, there's no free lunch. But I also want to say that when we talk about mobilizing domestic resources, we are not just talking about money. We are talking about even what you just talked about, the human resources. We have human resource. But what happens? Either the opportunities are not there, or we tie human resources to political allegiance. And so you may be the most qualified surgeon, but if your party is not in power, that expertise is not recognized. Mobilizing domestic resources means mobilizing money, mobilizing the human resources that we have, and mobilizing the goodwill that we have as a nation. We are the most stable country in West Africa. We have a long history of democracy. That is goodwill that we can also mobilize. So those are all resources that we need to mobilize to support our development. And when we do that, outsiders will complement, but at the end of the day, we own our development outcomes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Wow. All too soon, this brings us to the end of our conversation. Viewers have been talking to Mr. Alexander Moore, the acting Chief Executive Officer of the Millennium Development Authority, and Mr. Tanko Amidu, the Executive Director of Star Ghana Foundation, the convener of the Ghana Philanthropy Conference 2025. We had very great discourse talking about how we can use volunteerism, active citizenship, and patriotism to build the Ghana we all want. So we all be proud to say we are Ghanaians. Gentlemen, thank you all very much for making time with us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. See you sometime next week. Bye for now.